Hello everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations, and you with Simon today. And I've got something really cool to share with you. And this is, as you can see on the screen at the moment, this is about Pluto and Pluto and the south node of the astrology chart. So I had somebody ask me a question yesterday or the day before, and they wanted to understand what was the experience of Pluto and the South Node. Like, how does this actually work? Okay, and well, why not make a video on this subject? I have direct experience. I know what it's like. I've gone through it, and hopefully this can help any of you that are currently going through this transit, been through this transit, about to go through this transit, or were born with this experience. As you can see, quite a lot of people that might be showing up saying, hey, by the way, I'm one of these people in line dealing with Pluto. But this can help you, okay? So let's start with the building blocks of what type of archetypes we are dealing with here, okay? So we're looking at the south node of the moon. We are looking at the archetype of Pluto, or the energy of Pluto. And depending on which experience you have, if you have Pluto conjunct the south node, or if you are in your lifetime experiencing Pluto going over your south node, okay? Now, this can be a very difficult time in a person's life, okay? And the reason, from my point of view, why I feel that this is the case is because a lot of us have not had the opportunity to objectify the experience through EA or through astrology, but particularly evolutionary astrology. Also, there are insufficient amount, and this is my opinion, okay? Like, obviously your experience could be completely different, but it's in my opinion that there's insufficient amounts of information that really gets to the core of what this transit is about, okay, or what it's trying to do. So let's begin with looking at the context of the soul, okay? Each of us comes into this lifetime and we have this evolutionary trajectory, right? This evolutionary desire that has come to be fulfilled, okay? And that intention is rooted in the astrology chart that you have, right? So your natal chart, right? Really get that in the sense of this is your astrology wheel. And where the planets were at your birth, there are specific alignments that took place that as your life goes on, these energies will move and they will activate things in your life. And this is what we would then consider to be the events of our lives, okay? So the ongoing evolutionary intention of the soul is set up through the unfolding of your life, okay? So from that place, from that perspective, let's go and understand what the nodes of the moon represent. You know, and I teach this in my foundation class, Astrology, and it's a really important thing to understand. The lunar nodes, right? So the south node, which is the picture you see on the screen, and the north node of the astrology chart all reflects to us, just wait for the camera over there, all reflects to us a personality that we have, okay, developed and been conditioned through, okay? The north and south nodes, okay, reflect a personality that we have been conditioned or are being conditioned through, okay, and is our sense of identity between past and future. Okay, so in order for us to get a sense of what the future may be, and in order for us to reflect on the content, on what has happened to us, we need these two abstract points in space that pulls our attention in those different directions. Okay, so the south and north node represents these like realms of awareness. One that contains potential experiences that ultimately changes your perception in life, and the other one is what events have occurred that have shaped your life. Okay? The south node of the moon also acts as the womb, okay, and acts as the womb of whatever your soul was trying to do prior to this life, okay? It is the womb, it is the container, it is the place that your soul said, in this environment, I'm going to experience my desires, okay? So for me, I had South Node in the 11th house in Sagittarius, okay? And I grew up with this very deep sort of relationship to nature. I experienced a very close bond with like living in natural ways, you know, and this was just how I grew up. This was in the environment. And today I still have a very, very deep like calling or yearning to have experiences with nature. I feel very close to it. All right. And my body, even to a certain degree, like doesn't function well if I don't have certain amounts of time just kind of like roaming out in nature. Now, for all of us, this could be true. Okay, so it's not something that's just unique to me, but it is something that I witnessed with inside of myself. I also witnessed within my karmic story that the South Node represented a culture that I was belonging to, that was my identity, right? So originally came from South Africa. And this culture that I was growing up within at this point in time shaped my perception of reality. Okay. Pluto, think of it like this, okay? The energy of Pluto, the force that is Plutonian, okay? Imagine it as this force of energy that is just moving in a direction like this, okay? It's just moving very, very slowly. That's why I actually took the picture for the background of this, because it's this slow emerging. I mean, this is who I am, right? Pluto conjunct the Sun and Mercury, and I want to communicate through to everybody in this artistic way. Do you see how, watch notice in this video, watch how that Pluto is approaching the South Node. It's approaching the South Node. It's approaching the South Node. Slowly it's approaching the South Node. And then eventually it's right in your face, right? That's on purpose. I did that on purpose because that is the essence of what a Pluto transit the South Node is like. It's like, it's slowly approaching your experience. It's slowly coming onto your South Node. Then eventually, after a period of time, as you can see that now the Pluto is moving past your South Node, and the experience of whatever happened to you is now progressively moving away. That's the Plutonian effect. It's just this force that is ultimately going to say to you, hey, whatever it was that symbolized your past and the karma and the identity that is linked with that no longer is going to be a part of your future. It is simply ending here. Okay? It is simply ends here. So Pluto comes onto your South Node and begins creating deep ripples of change within your life that from your perspective feels deeply uncomfortable, because all of a sudden, within the context of what represents security to you, what represents your emotional attachment to life, begins to start becoming severed. You start to experience things like having to let go of certain ideals and identities. You're going to have to begin to see that some of the ways that you've been doing things in life no longer serve you. And Pluto will do this. It will say, cooperate with me and let go, or resist and experience loss. And that loss, that sense of like loss that's occurring, is Pluto knocking at your identity and your feelings of safety and your feelings of what you ultimately see your life as. And it says, this is going to be taken away. This is going away. And it creates a deep personal inquiry, like a very, 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 very profound personal inquiry into yourself. And it's intense because we're talking about like things changing. Now, when Pluto transited my South Node, it also transited my Jupiter. And of course, naturally speaking, as it transited my Jupiter, it was also in opposition to my Moon. So I had Pluto oppose the Moon, conjunct my South Node. Okay. And it was also squaring my Mars and Venus. So I had Pluto conjunct my South Node, square my Mars and Venus, and at the same time then oppose my natal Moon. Right? That was my Pluto opposition. And what was occurring for me during that period of time was, well, the first thing that happened was let me backtrack a little bit. When I was 3.5 years old, Pluto transited over my Saturn. And that was when my first trauma occurred, where Pluto eradicated the family structure that I had. So mom and dad split up. And immediately as mom and dad split up, I experienced the abandonment of the parents on both sides, the loss of the parents, Pluto over Saturn, and so that was occurring there, right? Then when Pluto was on my south node, on the 13th of December 2002, I had Mars and Venus literally on top of my Saturn. And Pluto was on my south node. Chiron, Saturn was on my moon. Chiron, I can't remember exactly where Chiron was, maybe in the seventh, I think. And I think even Jupiter at that stage was conjunct Mars Venus. I'm not 100% sure. I was looking at it like 2 days ago or something. Anyway, the point is that on December the 13th, Friday the 13th, December, I got into a car with another friend and we were in a car accident. And in a sense, everybody came out this car accident like fairly like sort of bumped and bruised and a couple of stitches, whereas I went into hospital, and so I was the only person out of this two car kind of thing that went into hospital, and I had like huge scarring and cutting on the side of my face over here, and my whole entire knee was completely like broken, like damaged. And today, I mean, I still have those scars that it sits on my knee, and if I do put pressure onto my knee where the skin tissue has came over it like that, it's like it's really sore. And we're talking 2002 here. I still have the mark on my arm where they put the injection into it, and this car accident. When you looked at the car was like flat, and there was just literally no way. It was like, how the hell this person survived? I have no idea, but I did. And what was even more intense was literally that was December. In March next year, another car accident, same scenario, in the passenger seat, and traveling back from watching a movie or something, and my friend decides to take a left and he just bang straight there. These are two car accidents within a period of like 3 months, 4 months. And I think after that, I learned to drive again, because I was like, I have to come over this fear. Pluto, you have to get to the core of the fear. And the fear was I had to get back into the car, otherwise it was just, I was never going to drive again. And what was interesting about this whole entire complex, as I begin to process this Pluto conjunct the South Node thing, was that I was on a trajectory. I was going in a specific direction. And this accident, this like series of experiences, not only forced me to actually abandon that whole direction, but it actually pushed me into going in a direction where now I am here today, which was I had to completely let go of all of the ideals, all of the perspectives, all of the things that I thought I was going to do with my life. Because I mean, I was like what, 18 or 19 at that stage. That I had to let go of it completely, progressively. Of course, it wasn't like let go and that was it. It was like progressively having to understand and let go of those ideals. Now, the left hand side of the body correlates to the feminine. And for me, like when I look at my karmic story, there's a lot of damage, there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of suffering and pain and experiences karmically that are associated with the feminine principle within inside of myself. And the scarring tissue on my body is a visceral experience of that trauma that sits within my body regarding the relationship to the feminine. And this Pluto transit over the South Node literally catalyzed not only a personal deep inquiry, but it pushed me, evolutionary speaking, to have to go in a new direction. And of course, the context of Mars and Venus, and Pluto conjunct the South Node, squaring Mars and Venus, in opposition to Moon, and then Mars and Venus natally or by a transit were on top of my Saturn. This whole entire complex just literally brought up the soul's karma. And Pluto went, I'm eliminating it. It's like, you're no longer going in that direction. It's a very, very profound experience to have in our lives, because it literally eliminates anything that no longer serves the past, or the future, should I say, and it is linked with the past. So you're actually going through one of the most intense metamorphoses that you will ever go through. Pluto conjunct the North Node is deeply empowering, fantastic, but South Node, it's very, very profound. And so wherever you have this energy, wherever you have this upcoming transit, this is not to be feared. Okay, my experience is extreme because I have Uranus squaring my Mars and Venus and on top of my Jupiter. So this was a sudden change to say, slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. You have to really, really slow down. And it has a lot to do with the relationship to the parent, to the mother, because the context of what was occurring in my life at that stage was deeply, deeply connected to the mother archetype, you know, and the pain and the woundedness that was there. And for me, during that time, I was very young, so I didn't really understand the context of it completely. It was only through understanding EA that I began to really put the things together. It was one of the reasons why I do this, because it helped me so much conceptualize and understand and process and digest what these things were about. But ultimately for me, it put me on a path to reunite myself with my own sense of who I am. And that can never be taken away. So a Pluto transit is one of the most powerful, like Pluto conjunct the South Node is one of the most powerful transits you can go through. And it's because it's challenging the core sense of security that you have, that is who you were, and now bringing it to the surface and saying, it's done. We're eliminating that. It's time for a new cycle. It's time for a new experience. And as Pluto begins to approach your South Node, you will start to notice this. So this video for you that is having Pluto on your South Node, Pluto approaching your South Node, Pluto just gone past your South Node, this through transit, this is an invitation to not fear this experience, but to allow life to bring you what is ultimately here to be done. I mean, think about it. Pluto conjunct the South Node. The soul obviously wanted you to be born at a time where Pluto before your South Node was happening, so that as you were growing through your life, it would have crossed it. This was necessary, and it will pull you in that direction. And now as Pluto leaves your South Node, just as it's doing in this video, you'll notice that this experience will lead you in a new direction. You might not know what that's about, and that's okay, right? So when you experience these deep anxieties and fears, like allow yourself to breathe through them. To talk to somebody about Pluto as it transits your South Node. Talk to people about what's coming up for you regarding the karma of your past. I encourage you to do that a lot. It's very important to begin processing that, because there's a lot of material that will come to the surface for you that you might be able to process, and there's some that you won't be able to process. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this is what the soul wants to do. So, the support that you can give yourself is to allow whatever emotions and deep, intense experiences come to the surface to be really moved through, to be released ultimately, so that this cannot be a part of the trajectory of yourself. Okay? Great. So I hope that you got a lot out of this video today. And for those of you that have had Pluto conjunct the South Node, either by birth chart or by transit, please, I encourage you a lot to help those that are watching this video to see what types of experiences happen. So in the comments below, share your stories so that you can help other people when they're reading them, and share with me, share with us what your experience was like, so that we can contribute to the overall welfare of those that have not only survived Pluto South Node, but have also experienced and lived through it to tell the tale, okay? Right, my friends, have a wonderful week. Take care. Bye-bye.